Welcome back to Sticks and Strings. I'm Naomi.
I'm Beth.
I'm Eve.
And we're back, and it is, what is it, mid-May? Mid-ish May?
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Almost
13th.
graduation time.
It's the 13th.
Yeah. And it's actually...
It's Friday the 13th?
It's Friday the 13th?
Ah!
Oh, no.
It's a good day for us.
I guess, actually, the weather's not been so bad. It's been kind of nice.
It's been hovering in the
90s, low 90s.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been breezy, and I haven't
It's been
noticed
nice. It's been nice.
Yeah.
It was where I thought, oh, it's warm enough to go swimming. And then I said, no, it's not.
Yeah, so that's always good. We don't want it to be too warm, too soon.
Yeah, because it bumped 100 a couple days ago.
Yeah, but you know, I got out of work at 5, 2 days ago, and was walking to my my bus, and it wasn't that bad. I was like, usually, you know, when it gets really warm, that 5 o'clock time is really horrendous. But so we're glad to have spring for a few more days.
At least part of the day.
At least part of the day. In the morning.
Thank you to our new subscribers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I forgot. So, big significant thing happened. We are at 300 subscribers. Yes. So, thank you so much.
And we will talk about a giveaway we're planning later in the video.
Yeah. So, find out how you can get hold of that. I'm going to go first. Last week I talked about this sweater that I was working on for my daughter, this yellow sweater. And here's the back. I finished the back. So you knit it around, and then you separate for the back and front. So I finished the back. I'm going to put a picture here of it kind of on the, as we call it, the Hannequin. So Mark started calling it my dress form. He calls it the Hannequin. And I just want to call it Elaine. If you watch Seinfeld, you'll get that joke. And so then I started...
Actually, that was supposed to be your name. That was one
Elaine?
of the names. That was one of the names that Mom and Dad had considered. And, and you can thank Tim because he's the one who vetoed it.
He vetoed it.
Because some girl at school didn't believe his mother was pregnant.
I know, I think it was an omen. So here's the front. So I finished the back, and now I'm working on the front. And I actually have hopes that even though 1 week from today I'll be flying to Boston, I have hopes that this will be finished. So that is my plan. The other thing I have to talk about, because I've been pretty obsessively knitting on this. It's really my exclusive at this point. Just because I'm like, I gotta get it done before graduation. I talked about going camping. And so we're going to go camping in the beginning of June. And I thought, of course I'm going to take knitting with me, but what do I want to take? I don't want to take my iPad and a pattern and, or have to sit with the iPad in my lap and the knitting and following. I don't want that. So I need some sort of partially mindless knitting. And I decided to make something called a 10-stitch blanket. I'm going to put a picture here of the Ravelry pattern. It's called 10-stitch because you only ever have 10 stitches on your needle at once. And you basically, it's right angles, but it's a spiral. And so you start in the center with a small square, and then you make what's called a mitered corner like this all the way around, and you come down the side, and then you just keep making those mitered corners and then stitching straight, and you just attach it to itself all the way around. And I thought that is going to be perfect. And I happened to have some time yesterday in between appointments, and there's miraculously a Hobby Lobby came, like the clouds parted, and there was a Hobby Lobby. So I was like, I have time. So I ran in there. I had been thinking about some bulky yarn that I knew about and some other things, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I thought, I don't want to take bulky yarn because I don't want to have to take camping, a big old ball like this. Because there's this acrylic yarn at Tempe Yarn and Fiber that's like multicolored, and it's a big ball like this. And it's just acrylic, and it's just simple. And I thought that might make a really nice blanket, and it would go fast. But then I thought, if I have to buy 1 or 2 of those for a blanket, I don't want to take all that. Mm-hmm. So I'm wandering around Hobby Lobby, and I'm looking at the chunky weight and the bulky weight, and of course I don't want to do fingering. But I found this, and I also wanted to find something that if I ran out, I know it'll be there, and I can go back and buy more. Depending on how big you just make the blanket as big as you want. But I found this. Isn't this pretty? This is called Windswept Wishes, and it does have a dye lot, but I figured it's so varied that you're not going to see color next to. I mean, maybe you will, but it won't matter in that particular pattern, I don't think. And so I thought this looks very sort of campy and sort of natural colors. And I decided this blanket will be my camping blanket one day when I finish it. So I can take up probably just 1 or 2 skeins. I'm probably not going to get through a whole skein in 5 days, but or however long we're up there. So I thought I'm going to start it before I leave, before I go camping, because I don't want to, because there is a pattern to it, and I want to learn it and have it memorized before I go up there, so I don't have to take anything with me besides the yarn and needle. And because there's only 10 stitches on the needle at a time, some people just even use double points that are like this long. But I decided to buy myself a pair of straight needles, which I never use. I always use circulars. But I didn't want all that excess cables.
And what if you lost them and you lost your fancy?
Yeah, so these are metal. I really wanted some bamboo. They didn't have good bamboo in the size that I wanted at Hobby Lobby. I may sneak off to Joann's and see if they have any clover needles there, because I really like their bamboo needles. But meanwhile, I bought these just cheapy metal. The danger to these is that in the hustle and bustle of camp, it's possible that the stitches could fall off. But they're so long, actually. If it's just 10 needles, I can slide it way down here.
10 stitches.
It'll be fine. Yeah. And then, and maybe these are actually too long to work with. I don't know. I'll see. But but I'm not afraid of them coming off, because I figured something out when I was working on this sweater and having to hold one side, because when I worked on the back, I put the front, instead of putting it on waste yarn, I put it on a smaller circular needle, but I was also worried about it sliding around. So actually I put rubber bands on the end here, because that's what I happen to have handy, and I just put rubber bands on here, and it, of course, will prevent any stitches from falling off. So I have a rubber band I'll take with me to save those stitches on there. But so I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be really pretty, and I just really, it's kind of soothing colors to me. I debated and looked at all the colors and all the variegations, and there was all these purples and blues and blah blah blah. But I think I like the rust
I will say,
color
if you have to get a different dial, the variegation in that yarn is
it won't matter.
Yeah.
And so this is called Soft and Sleek Low Pill Fiber, and that's the other thing I thought is like, I want a nice high twist on the yarn that I use, and the fact that it's no pill means that I think, because I intend to then use it when I go camping, so I can sit in my camping chair, and it's a square, so it won't be dragging on the ground and kind of thing, and use it to snuggle with in my camping chair, or if I'm just taking a little nap or something. I thought that'd be fun. So this will be my camping project, and maybe over the years I'll just make one for everybody. I don't know, but that's my fun decision this week. I have other things to talk about in stories, because I've been listening to a very significant podcast I want to tell you all about, and I'll talk about that. But that will be for stories. So, who's next? You're next, Beth.
Yeah.
She has to put a thread. Always has to put a thread.
Well, I was just getting at the very end of this. I was like, keep talking, Naomi, keep talking.
I don't have anything else to talk about. I really don't. I literally have been
go
doing
next
nothing.
if you're not ready.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Take it away.
So, I had a finish.
You had lots of finishes.
I finished the Livin' Is Easy Summertime Berry,
With the
Erica
little
Michaels.
flamingo. flamingo.
I thought it was a bigger flamingo, but it's tiny.
I thought it was a bigger flamingo.
I thought it was too. And I did she said you could do the eye as a French knot, or you could do it as a 1/1 stitch. And I said, oh, I'll just do it as a French knot. And I'm like, big eye.
I can never make French knots look good.
And so, well, normally I don't have any issue, but I'm like, oh my God, that's tiny. That's a big eye for that tiny little bird. But I'm going to leave it. My new motto is, if it ain't gonna hurt it, just leave it. I'm
sorry. I'll have to tell you in stories more about this sweater. I totally forgot about that exact issue. Oh my God.
So I did, this color is not cream or off-white or whatever color it is that the one in the picture is. And so this little drink cup here, and I have you'll see a photo, but probably not as I'm talking about the issue. The little drink cup here, the white was just really not popping up. Mm-hmm. So I backstitched it with pink.
Oh, okay.
It's barely, the pink is very light too, but it makes the cup actually show up. And I thought about backstitching the little sail on this boat down here for the same reason. But I thought with the rest of the sail there and the mast and all that, your mind fills it in anyway. So, but there's my first summertime berry. And I did start on, that's what I'm working on right now. S'more Summer, Please.
Is that the one with the camper?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. And, when you look at the picture, you can't really see what the pattern is. And I know we've said before, I wish that she had where you could see the whole thing. Other patterns other than berries, you can see the whole pattern.
Yeah.
And it's not that I dislike any of these patterns. Please don't misunderstand me. But this is a really cute pattern. And I can't show it to you because all I have of it is the pattern.
Excuse me.
So it says S'more Summer Please on top. And then there's a little camper that has little wings out. It's one of those little trailer campers. And behind that is trees. But there is also a moon and stars and marshmallows on a stick. I think that's what those are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The s'mores.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an adorable pattern. But
there's no photo.
Here, all you see is the middle part of the camper. You can't see how really cute it is.
Yeah, those are marshmallows and sticks. Yeah, I wish that she had a photo of it finished, but not fully finished.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to wait till Eve finishes it to see it.
So, the one with the flamingo, they had me at flamingo. But but the rest of that is also very cute with the flip-flops. And although the flip-flops, the top of them is the color is so close to the other two colors that you can barely not see the little strings for the flip-flops.
The part that would go over your toes. Mm-hmm. Oh, because they're striped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're cute anyway, so yeah. I've seen the one with the words. I've seen it. Helen D. just finished this one, and it's really nice too. She's also doing hers on 32 count, but I just wish I could show you how adorable this middle pattern is, because when I looked at the patterns, when I looked at this, I said, oh, flamingo, I like that one. and I liked the color of this one. And this one I was like, nah. And now when after I bought it and I'm looking at the pattern to do it,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, that is adorable.
It's adorable.
It's really cute. So that's what I'm working on right now. I have an FFO.
It's so cute. I can't stand that.
This is
beautiful.
Be Peaceful by it's one of the. I think it's
the Ukrainian.
it's one of them.
Bravko.
Maria Bravko.
There
Cute
you
Patterns
go.
by Maria. Yeah, she just put another adorable robin pattern up. It's like I cannot keep buying. I have so many patterns. And her patterns are so cute, and I do want to. I'm happy that in buying this pattern, I'm supporting a Ukrainian designer. But
But you also need some money.
but I can't, and they're just my patterns
That's
are
so
just
cute.
stacking up.
I
But
cannot stand that.
I saw this.
Can I see that?
I saw this daisy. Daisy is my favorite flower. I saw this daisy and I said, "Oh, that bee would look so cute there." And
you put this ribbon on?
Yeah. So I bought the.
She's too good.
See why I don't finish things?
I bought
Totally
the
intimidated.
daisy, and then I was gonna work on it. I even started cutting out I just used cardboard, not regular cardboard. It's
It's so cute.
It's not
Like-
sticky board.
Yeah. But it's the same.
But it's the same
heaviness.
type of.
You have batting under here?
Yeah.
Oh, how nice.
2 layers of batting because flowers should be poofy in the middle. Anyway, I have a smaller circle that I poked. This is from Hobby Lobby. Oh, and I said maybe I should put it on a sunflower because she's holding a sunflower. And I couldn't find one I liked. There was one that was just a little bit bigger than this, but it was blue. But everything that was the color of the sunflower that's right here, ugly, or had stuff on it. But I have a smaller circle underneath this circle that I poked.
She's chasing flowers.
Your dog.
There's
the
a
dog
fly.
is jumping around.
There's a
chasing
fly
the
in the house. My dog is scared of flies, so I'm surprised she's like actually going after it. I think instead of running
She
from
must
it.
have gotten an email from Calvin and Hobbes telling her it was okay.
Did you send
That
the
is
thing
funny.
I sent you? Did you watch the thing I sent you on orange cats?
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, I used wire rather than trying to glue it because cardboard to metal is an iffy prospect. So I use wire, and that means I can take this off and put a different thing on it if I want to, without damaging anything that I've done.
Nice.
So along the lines of Priscilla's magnets, I can just rewire it. But eventually the wire would,
Yeah.
She may have caught
disintegrate.
it, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Eating it.
That's all right.
That's what Puck always did.
And
Extra
then-
protein into his diet.
And then I had I bought 3 sizes of ribbon because I wasn't sure what I wanted to use, and I ran a needle and thread through to gather it, and then glued it on the back of the piece of board that has this on it,
The stitching, right?
the stitching, and then I glued the whole thing to the little circle underneath. Because cardboard to cardboard will glue, So
Neat.
there it is.
Very nice.
And I hung it on the wall, and I was like, that is so adorable. And then,
I think the white is perfect. I think a sunflower would have been too yellow,
Yeah.
and the ribbon wouldn't have shown up as nicely.
Yeah.
and a daisy with a yellow middle is perfect. So,
Yeah.
yay. I bought that bee that's right there, and I hung it on there, and I was like, well,
This
that
bee
bee might
is
be a
on
little
the-
big for it. But, yeah,
And you only ever see one bee at a time in the flower, so you want to take a peek.
So I'm really happy with the way that came
Nice.
out.
You should be.
I'm kind of excited about that. I did work on 2 of my personal designs for my WIP-GO stuff. I haven't been keeping track of the days, but I figure if I do it every other day, I'm going to reach 15 days by the end of the month, right? So you remember I was working on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing you this one rather than the other one because the other one isn't on the Etsy site yet. And I've shown that one before, but it's getting closer to being done, and so I want to finish it before I show it. I finished this middle one.
You're talking about a different pattern.
Different pattern.
Yeah.
I finished this middle ornament. It's a little thingy up on top.
Cute.
And I started on the red one. Now, this is Jesus in the Manger, is what this little scene is. This scene is them going to Bethlehem. The first one is the angel coming to Mary. This one is... I don't know. The wise men on their way. And the last one is the shepherds. So, and they're all different colors. So I realized that it makes it difficult to see a lot of the design in there because they're predominantly done with one color. But ornaments that have designs painted on them often, because they're brightly colored, a lot of times it's kind of subtle. So that's what my thinking was on that. But I'm really happy with the way the middle one came out. So, yes.
Very good.
But I'm not working on that. And it's time to cover up Beth.
Time to cover up Beth.
Okay,
Beth, you need to make something that you can cover up yourself with. You can cover yourself with this.
I'm unstitching right now.
Okay.
So I made a boo-boo.
My chair doesn't go any further back.
I think we need to move the table next week. Oh, we're
I have to move it now. Just to stand up.
We're moving the table a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I make sure I have it right side up. Okay. So this is Snow Days woolly flannel.
Lower it a little bit. There you go. There's the top. And go up, 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 up. And there's the bottom.
So the quilt panel, the quilt top is done. I have the backing fabric because it was a kit. Came with backing fabric and everything. I know it picks up everything. I have the. I bought the batting, so all I have to do is lay it out. But I had stuff all over the table because I was making a bee.
It's so beautiful.
So,
The little heads are so round.
they're so round and cute. I like this with the green hat.
Mm.
I like him
So
catching
nice.
snow.
Yeah, they're so. Every single one is cute. Little cardinal.
On his nose.
Very
His
good
little
job,
tree.
Eve. Your corners are beautiful.
You know, the first time I put these two together.
She sent me a picture. They were upside.
Well, no.
Oh,
The stripes were like this. They were not straight.
Oh.
And I was like, "Argh." So I took it apart and then I showed you.
And then she sent me one where she had put the snowman one panel on upside down, one
The heads
strip,
were together.
so
and
that
stuff.
yeah, I was like, are they supposed to be like that?
All right, so that was what I worked on this week. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing now. Yeah, so now it's you.
Okay. Well, now I'm in the middle of unstitching something because I put this in the wrong
Okay,
place.
but you don't
We'll
have
put
to
it down
finish
and
it.
talk
Well,
about
I
it.
know, but I just want to pull it out because it's in the wrong place. Okay. I don't have a needle minder for this one, so. Okay. So today I'm working on the same thing I was working on last week. because I did make some significant progress on it. I finished the cow skulls in the corner, and I finished these 2 saguaros. Last time I just had one color of the thing. So I have to do. So all I have to do now is 2 more. I do one here and one here, and they're kind of a lot of stitching, but it's almost done. So this is the Western Brusquin, and my goal. This is one of my WIP-GOs, and so the goal is to finish it. So theoretically, I can finish it if I can get those saguaros done. I was hoping to get it done by, like by the 10th or whatever, by the 9th or 10th, because the goal on the other 2 is 10 days each. So, that would give me a little, but I have a little leeway, in there. But anyway, so on the 11th, I started my another one of my WIP-GO things, and I just did it. Today's the 13th, so I did it. Yeah, the 11th and the 12th. So this is Old Clipper Ship. This is my number 8 of my WIP-GO, and before, there was like a little this ecru part of the little sail here was like partly done, and I finished it, and then there's a darker like sort of outline to the sails, and I did everything above the ecru sail that I had done, so it's all outlined up there. And right now, the last time I was working on it, I was working on down here. Because, I was reading through the instructions just because it, kind of caught my eye. I made a working copy of this because it's in a booklet. But so I was, looking at the instructions there, and it said something about, like, in a couple places, it said, like, do the ecru of the sails last. And it didn't say why necessarily, but I thought, well, that's good, because there's there's the darker outlining, and then there's a lighter color outlining around it. Like this little lighter colored line is not the same color as the ecru of the sails, but it's very, very close. And so if I do this dark outline and then do this color, then all that's left is just filling in, all the ecru for the sails, and then there's the whole big ship underneath. So it's quite a ways from being done. But I figure in the 10 days I can do finish this dark outlining and do all of this lighter colored outlining. And then I was very tempted last night, because I just didn't feel like looking for the thread bobbins, because once upon a time, when I was working on this, I had all the threads, and but then since I've put it away, I've put all the thread bobbins away, and so if, I was just working on, one of the reasons I was working on the ecru is because that was one color that I had in the little left in the little bag that I had, but so up on the very top of the ship are just like there's little bits of it. There's little bits of brown for the stems for the flag, the pennants, and then on the end of each of these sails, there's like 2 little brown stitches, to be the ends of the yarn. I'm like all along here. I was like, it's a pain in the butt, and I'd have to go like dig up the colors and all that. So they're all been put away, so I was just being very lazy. So I thought, well, I'll just work on this because I have this bobbin.
Yeah.
So that's why I got into a pretty good rhythm with this darker brown color. I mean, darker brown of the sails. So I just have all this, down here to go. And the problem right here is that it's right over the 2 separate pages of the pattern that I have to line it up. And the thing that's a pain in the neck about this pattern, I was looking at it last night to remind myself that, it has the dark grid lines on the pattern, but for some reason, they're in sets of 14. not 10, like, like most patterns you get now, you look at it and there's the heavy lines that show you 10. So you can look at something
14?
and say, oh, that's 10. Yeah, it's 14. I'm like, that's just a totally
Is
random
that because
number.
you think of like 14 count Ada?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if the person who did the pattern, like, took the number of squares in the pattern and divided it equally, or they just
So weird.
chose 14 because you typically use 14 count Ada or whatever.
That's so weird.
But it's so weird. So the squares are 14 by 14. So you can't just like nowadays you
just
can
count 10.
Yeah, you say oh, okay, that goes from end to end in a grid, so there's 10 stitches or whatever.
Oh my
gosh,
that's awful.
So I mean, it helps in some ways, I guess, but it really doesn't help at all. So yeah, but like I said, so I did that kind of a lot for just 2 days of stitching, so I'm very happy with that. And this is 28 count Lugana that I dyed myself. And then, and this, just for anybody I think this is 18 count. It's very tiny. Ada.
I didn't talk anything about my count.
And then, since this is Mania, this month, and many people are doing Mania, I have sort of a pseudo-mania. Just like randomly doing a bunch of designs that I have. Because, as I've said before, I buy new patterns all the time, and I have like just a pile of things like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and there's only so many days in a week, so if I want to finish something, there's always the dichotomy of, how many things can I finish, how many things do I want to start, that's why I have, so many WIPs and everything. And actually, I was putting the patterns that I bought like last week. I guess I realized they weren't in my Thread Stash app, and so I was putting as many in as I could find. I didn't know if I'd put them all in, but so I was going through and I was putting them in, and I have like counting all the ones in progress and all the ones not started. I have something like 112, 113, something like that.
Patterns?
Yeah. And that's just the ones that are in my...
I hope you're planning to live to like 150.
That's just the ones that are in my
continue
thread
to stitch
stash.
the whole time.
Yeah, I have a significant chunk that are not in that Thread Stash app. So anyway, because of that, I'm just trying to do something, for Mania, just to get some patterns done. And I had shown this one last week, this little lanyap, and I had really hoped to finish it. But I think the needle minder I have on here is bigger than the pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Because I put it on there because I had, I just was trying to not lose my needle and not stick it on there. But so this is almost done. I have like just the let me see, make sure I got it right. Yeah.
That's so
just
small.
the little crisscrossy things, and there's some little tiny squares. But yeah, it's very tiny. That's why I was thinking. I was hoping I could get it finished because it's so tiny. But it's it's very a lot of detail. So this is 22 count Hardinger, and but yeah, so really, pretty much all that's left is there's some just diagonal crisscrossy things like this line here that they continue across there, and then there is some little square motifs around in between the crisscrosses. So anyway, but it was just a free freebie pattern thing that I got at the attic some time ago, and it's a little kit. But so I made a little bit of progress on that since last week. Hopefully I can finish it. later this month. Sorry, my this thread is trying to jump out, and I was trying to get it in it. Okay. And then, since last week was Mother's Day, last Sunday, I went ahead and started this chart called Mother by Azia Gladstone of New York Dreamer. It's this very pretty pattern. It's very simple. There's a little backstitch words and the word mother on the bottom, and this this motif of the leaf and branches. And so right here and right
it's
here,
bigger than I thought it would be.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
There are spaces for what look on the pattern look like buttons, buttons or ribbon embroidery or something, and there's nothing, not a word, in the pattern about them. So I think maybe I'll look for some appropriate.
The dog's winding up. Rogue, come here. Come here, Rogue.
Appropriate buttons or something to put there. Once upon a time, I had done a little thing, a little ribbon embroidery kit kind of thing, but I don't want to mess with it.
Oh, you can buy those little rosettes.
Yeah. So and then there's also like a little charm or something up there, and there's nothing in the pattern about that.
It's like the cereal boxes, suggested serving, what is it? Serving suggestion.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So. But and I even went to her website to see if maybe there was some feedback from other people who bought it or whatever, and I couldn't find any information. So I'm just gonna make it up as I go.
Yeah.
But this is very loose weave. It says 26 count linen, so I don't know if it's. I kind of think it might be 26 count, but it might be 28. I don't know. But it's very loose, and I had to the needle has a tendency to fall out of it. It's like because the fabric isn't tight enough to hold the needle as you switch your hand around, whatever. And yeah. So is that my phone?
No, it's my iPad. I'm just counting my rows, and it makes little sounds. Sorry.
But
The
so
sound you're probably hearing is my alarm going off.
oh.
It's time for the dog's medicine.
Dog ran away.
Yeah. So this is I guess I just did sort of the lower quarter of this thing.
Did that fabric come with the pattern?
No, this is just
your
fabric
stash?
I had in my stash. Yeah.
It's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Did it come with threads? I'm sorry. Was it a kit or did
No,
you?
no,
You bought the threads.
the fabric I'm doing that other pattern of mine on. It has also a very loose weave. It's a Nada though, but I'm like, and part of me is like, I should be doing more than 2 threads because it's so the holes are so big.
Wide. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is also some kind of linen.
Oh, is that Eve's?
Yeah, I think I took
Commissioning.
Yeah,
work?
I think I took the tag off because Puck kept grabbing it and trying to play with it. But this is also that same kind of thing. That I think this is 28 count.
It doesn't even. This one.
Yeah,
wider.
but this is also
Looser.
linen. So this is just let me get this needle winder out of the way.
Woodland Holiday Sampler.
Yeah, this is a Artful Offerings Woodland Holiday Sampler. It's so cute with the deer and the rabbits.
I remember the day I was ordering it at the attic because I had seen it somewhere and they didn't have it in there, and we were all going, look at
Yeah, the bunny.
and we kept finding different things on it that were so cute.
Little belt.
Details.
So I just have the deer's antlers is all I've done.
I really like
on
the
this
ribbon,
one.
the red ribbon at the bottom and top. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that we were noticing is some of the details in here. like the bird and his little scarf, you know. The deer is wearing a little bell around his neck.
And
He's got a belt. And his little, are these PJs?
I think they,
You
they
know?
look like pajamas.
sweater.
Yeah, and the little
Or a
sweaters
sweater.
on
The
the
bunnies are all wearing them, yeah.
yeah, a little sweater on the bunnies, and it just their little eyes. It's so cute. This
adorable.
pattern is so cute.
Yeah, and so this was a combination of, there's like 3 Gentle Arts colors. The pecan, which is the color used, I think, on those antlers. And then orange marmalade, which is used, I don't know where.
On him?
I think just the bird's beak. Because the brown of the of the deer is one of the I think it's one of the DMC colors.
Yeah.
But and then Buckeye Scarlet is one of the reds, and that was one we had trouble finding. But so I was looking at the DMC suggestion alternative, and I just chose one for my stash. I think it's Aztec Red is what and I don't remember if it was Weeks or Gast or whatever, but it's but I had kitted it up, so I just because I looked at it, was kind of close to what my DMC bobbin was. So, and the other thing I worked on was this Dimensions kit called Owl Trio. And all I did was, it's hard to see on this, because it came with this light blue Ada, and I started in the center, so I did the eyes.
The white eyes.
So they're white on this blue eye. So it's hard to see from this, angle.
We'll show a photo.
But somebody, I think it was Charlotte Jorgensen, one of my followers, had commented on it, because I showed it last Saturday. And she said that it reminded her of, I think it was a bank she had when she was, that had like
Owls?
the same color and
Oh.
the same owls or something, looked like hers.
How cute.
But yeah, so that's all the stitching that I've done this week, I believe.
Which will transition.
I tried to do, like I said, I had talked about doing the Stephanie Schaffner method of new starts, which is like basically one length of thread.
Yeah.
But I ended up with this owl kind of trying to finish the eyes.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get there, but because what I did was one how the skein is divided into 6 threads. So most of the time, or most of them, I use it on the DMC. I use the loop method, and the ones that are that are fancy floss, I have the length of I use 2 separate lengths and whatever. But so using all 6 threads of whatever length of thread I have was how much was what I did on some of them, But yeah, so I have a little bit of a start on each of those other projects. So
That's fun.
so yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm still working on my, if I can unbury it now, on my Biscornu. So hopefully I can finish it.
So that takes us into stories, which your story is haul and a half.
Because I wasn't even gonna go there. I didn't have to go there to Hobby Lobby.
But I wanted
And
to go
Eve
look
wanted
for...
to go look for a sunflower, which she ultimately didn't buy.
At Hobby Lobby.
I just
Hobby
bought a
Lobby.
bee.
So you're saying she forced you to buy haul?
Mm-hmm.
She forced all those things into your hand?
Yeah. So I'm wandering around the store aimlessly while she's, and the first thing that caught my eye.
When I arrived today, she opened up the bag and she says, "I have a problem."
I have a disease.
You have a disease. I'm
I
like,
have a
"You sure
disease."
do."
So
That's so funny.
this is so adorable. This kit was like the very first thing I saw hanging in their cross stitch aisle.
It's called Mama Cat.
Yeah, it's called Mama Cat, and this is the new Dimensions packaging, I guess. It's a Dimensions kit. So it comes with all the stuffs. It has these little pre-sorted threads. And I was watching.
It's wearing glasses.
Glasses and a handkerchief.
Yeah, and a little babushka. Yeah, I love this.
Gato mama.
Gato mama.
Gato mama. That's cute.
But so there's 14 count, light green Ada, a needle and instructions, whatever. So so this it has the minty green Ada, which I really like. I like the color of it. But so I was watching Stitch Bliss Corner. She's one of Mary Rose. She's one of my subscribers. I watch her channel, and when she gets these little cards like that, and like I had talked about before, once you snip a length off, you have this loose length, and so what she did was she took a hole punch and punched on the other side of where they're attached, and then used it like a thread drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did for the Alatrio kit. I had some thread drops that I had bought at the attic that I put because this was also a dimensions kit, and it came also with the little card with the.
But these cards are like they're glued in, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like once you to use it, you have to cut a thread off of there, and then you have the
So I was thinking this was a double card, but no, you have room.
There's two separate cards.
Room along the other side. That's smart.
Yeah,
that's very smart.
But speaking of thread drops, I want to start experimenting with making some. I bobbinate my DMC, but the fancy floss things are all on their own cards, and I could leave them on those cards because it has the color and it has the everything else. But anyway, so I kind of like floss drops for certain things, certain purposes. I'm not a really heavy user, but I've wanting to get into making them. So I've been little by little buying stuff to make them with. But anyway, so I think I talked about it before last week, at least on my channel I did. Anyway, so while I was there at Hobby Lobby, I was looking around, so I bought another hoop. Because you can never have to. And I bought another pair of scissors.
Are you serious?
Because I thought, I don't have a pair of scissors like this.
Oh my God.
So I bought another pair of scissors. And this thing was something new. Crafty hand cream. Which if they continue to have it, and if I like it, it's the perfect all-natural hand cream for busy crafters. Will not stain fabrics, yarns, paper, and other arts and crafts materials while keeping the skin smooth and moisturized for hours.
I need some right now.
Yeah. So I bought this. Let me see how it works. Because it never fails that I'll buy. Well, like the last few times I've been to the attic, they haven't had
it.
Yeah, any lotion over there. So so I've been using what lotions I have, but they're not specifically crafting things. And then I found these little flower charms. There's a big charm and little they're like those resin,
with pressed flowers though.
Yeah.
Inside. That's nice.
Yeah. And then they had also in the cross stitch area. This is 25 count Lugana in steel blue, because I saw it hanging there and I thought at first it was another color of the Murano Carré, but because they had the lighter blue, which is spa, but they had this. I saw this dark blue, and so I went and looked at it, and it's 25 count Lugana, which is a little bit different count. I usually use 28 count. So the 25 is a little bit bigger. But if you stitch over 2 threads, it's whatever. I can't do the math. 11 and a half. I don't know. So, anyway, it's It's different. But I like this color. So
nice.
so yeah, so I went ahead and bought 2 of them because it was cheap. They're relatively small
Oh, they're small.
pieces, I think.
Yeah. 11 by 18.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
but yeah, so yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. I just had a piece of thread. Oh, here it is. I'll say that.
To put a thread. So I in terms of stories, a couple things. I forgot to talk about this sweater. I don't know. I blocked it from my mind. Oops. Now see, here I am doing it again. What did I just do? Oh yeah. I can't talk and knit this sweater at the same time because, hold on, I gotta go back a stitch. Because, okay, I showed you the back and I showed you the pretty picture of the finished back, right? Well, that back, I swear to you, I did 3 times. So I stitched to about here and realized that, so there's stitches along these edges, and I'll put a close-up here. And they're called right and left twist stitches, which I'd never done before. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And because I read the instructions, but I didn't go find a video of it. And I figured out the right twist, that's this one, just fine. But the left twist I did completely wrong. And when I got to about here, so Elizabeth Zimmerman used to say, admire your work. Meaning, stop what you're doing and look at it. And when I did that, I saw that this whole column of stitches along here looked completely different from everything else in the pattern. And I looked then at the actual pattern photo and I was like, ew. So then I went back and looked at it and it was wrong. I was doing these left twists wrong. So I had to go back to where the knit in the round. So see, I separated like here to knit the front and back, and I had to pick it up somewhere down here before I started this pattern. And that in itself, I thought that I could easily pick up stitches along a row, but because of this, I wound up in 2 separate rows, and so it took me forever to pick up the stitches so that I could rip out what I'd just done. Then I finally fixed it and I kept going and I got up here and I was like, so you see how this ridge here goes all the way to the shoulder. See how it travels, this yarn over line travels to the shoulder. Well, I was almost to the shoulder on one side and on the other I had like 5 extra stitches. So it wasn't traveling because I had forgotten that at a certain point in this long, you actually, instead of doing 1 decrease along here, you actually do 2. And that's what gives it that curve. And so on one side, I had completely, on the, I guess it was this side, I had completely forgotten that second decrease in several rows. And there was no way to drop it back and figure it out. And I'm like, I have to rip back another like whole, I don't know how many rows. But this time, I just pulled my needle out and started unraveling it. And I had put a pin right where I wanted it to be, right where I thought on a purl row, which has no increases or decreases. And I put a pin, one of these little light bulb pins, which is like a safety pin. Mm-hmm. And I put it in there, that stitch that I wanted to stop at. So I had it, I was actually at work. The phones were very dead, thankfully. And I had it on the table and I was just ripping it back and getting really close to that. And I was going really slowly. And when I knew I was on that row, I stuck the needle in to those stitches that were sitting there. And it was a very dangerous thing to do because, because I was going slow and it was on a table, I felt really, and actually it worked very, very well. So then I had to do it again. And then I got up and I finished. So I got the...
Stamp myself, sorry.
It says to knit till the armhole. This is the armhole is 9 inches, which is this is. But I realized that in the front, if I only do to that many inches, it doesn't give enough time for the shaping of the neck. So I'm going to make it to 10 inches, which means I have to come back and pick this line up and add another inch of knitting, but that won't be a problem. So that's try number 3 on the back. And then on the front, I'm like, okay, I did all those mistakes. It was all learning, right? And so the front is going to go beautifully. So then I'm knitting along yesterday at the car oil change place. I mean, at the dealership where I was. And I noticed that in my beautiful line of yarn overs, there was an extra yarn over on one side, on the outside of this little V. I'm like, how did I do? Because I'm just either sleep knitting or not paying attention. And the way this is written, it's a yarn company pattern. It's not an individual knitter pattern. I mean, individual designer. And the way it's written out is, it's not charted, which maybe charting would be easier. I don't know, but it's like, do this, do this, do this, do this, place a marker, do this, da 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 da. And it's like each row is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines long, and it's all, knit 1, place marker, left twist, yarn over, knit to next marker, drop marker, knit 1, place marker. It's literally repetitive in the row, and so I'm like, where was I? And I think that's how I accidentally put an extra yarn over. Yeah. And it's just so frustrating. But so I even had to do the front twice.
But the pattern is so pretty.
But it's coming along very well. But so it's just like one of these things, like, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard, but but I'm pleased with it. But it's just one of those things of like, can I live with this mistake? Or can't I? Like when I found out that the shoulders were the wrong, I'm like, could I fake it and just put in some? No, because the curve of that thing would have been wrong on it. Could I just somehow absorb that? Could I figure, could I ladder down? And no, so I had to rip back so many times.
That's what where I was with this clipper ship pattern, because I got up here and one of these I realized was like, because on here you have to go up 3 and go up 2 and whatever, and it was in this little thing. Yeah. I guess. Like at some point, you're going, this row is one shorter, this row is one shorter, this row is one shorter. And then at some point, it changes a little bit. And I had skipped a line, I guess. I skipped one. And so I put I had already put like this diagonal line across that's the top of the sail. And I thought, well, can I fake it? Can I just, fudge it a little bit? And I was like, no, because then everything is off, and if I don't adjust everything that goes with it,
my fear is that when I come back to that problem, I'll forget what I was doing. Yeah That's what I thought. I thought, if who knows if I'll get it done now, and you have to wait several months before I get back to it. You have to deal with mistakes in however you feel most comfortable, but so a little bit, I'm like, this sweater is a pain, but it's actually, what's nice is I don't have to do any sleeves. As soon as I'm done with the front, and I put that extra inch on the back, then I just put the shoulders together, and it's done.
So,
but, sorry. No, it's okay. What's wrong? Talking about mistakes?
No. Talking about, remember I changed the font in one of my other berries, and I changed the font a little bit in this. There's still some parts of it that I really don't care for, but I left. Is that a V or a U?
It looks like a V.
It's like a V, right? Yeah. It's supposed to be a U.
And the R looks weird, and the E's are weird.
I changed the R.
I know.
I like my R's better. I hate the E's, but I can live with the E's the way they are charted. That's a V.
Zwummer.
Zwummer.
More Zummer, please. More Zummer, please.
Zwummer.
Well, when I was working on that bookmark, the Ben Franklin quote bookmark, coming up with the font for the, I was like having a struggle with that. Like does this look like an H, or does it look like a
Well,
some
you know-
other letter, or and the R's and the V's and the how much of a curve do you put, or where do you put the thing?
And I understand how hard it is to come up with your own font, but I worked as a graphic designer for a long time, and most of our clients were engineers, and everything better be perfectly lined up. Everything needs to be correct. And I was designing something, and I had letters flipping over and stuff, and the owner came and she said, I like your pattern, but you have to have all the letters right side up because it'll drive people crazy. and I'm like, well, then can he please put all his notes going the right way? Because it's another language that you read, and when you read that language, I mean music notes. When the notes are not going the right way, you just kind of go.
Yeah, that's my one of my pet peeves is when you see some little line of music, and like the stems are on the wrong side, or the
clef is the wrong.
Yeah, that you understood that, because I'm like, how hard is it to go call someone? Oh, my aunt used to play music or something.
Or to look at a piece of music. Just look at a piece of music. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I put the letters correct. I mean, they were all floating in space, so I didn't see any issue with it. But she did, and I changed it. But I said, then we need to always have the notes going right, because it's annoying to people who read music. Mm-hmm. And she had never even thought about that. And so part of it is, for me, is that letters are important to me. And so I understand, because I've tried to make my own fonts, is that, you can't copy anybody else's the way they did it. There's a limited number of ways you can make an E, because they're an E. And in this font, I can't show you the pattern, but I can show you the finished E. I will take a close-up picture. But this E design drives me bananas. And because of the close proximity to stuff below, I stitched it the way it was. But the R, I could not live with the way it was designed. To me, it looked like a Y. And this is all, it's mine. I'm the one that's going to have to look at it, so I'm not going to have it like that, right?
Yeah.
The E still bothers me because there's no hole. E's are supposed to have a hole. and yet, when you look at it from afar, it looks like an E.
Yeah.
Right? But once you see it that way, that looks like a V.
Yeah.
I'm about to stitch that, and I'm looking, going, okay, I have to change that.
Yeah.
Another thing is, and this is a design element, and so I'm doing it the way it's charted, is that the letters are not like all on one plane, straight. They're kind of,
because probably goes around the circumference of the berry, right?
well, I don't know necessarily that, but it doesn't matter. That's the way it's designed, and so that's okay. But because of that, some letters are further apart from each other than the others are. And that was another thing that my boss had, was kerning. I cannot stand it when I'm designing something if it's not kerned correctly. And if you don't know what that word is, it is a word that describes the space in between letters. So Microsoft Word does not allow you to kern letters, to bring them closer together, or to separate them further apart. So you will have letters touching that shouldn't, or you will have letters that, like if you have an R and a C, or next to each other, they might be touching, or if you have an R next to something else and it's like really far away, and you cannot get it to come closer. So programs that allow you to do that are fantastic. And so when I'm working with Microsoft Word, it drives me crazy. And when I'm doing my own designs, and I have designed a font and I'm trying to type it in and it doesn't kern right, I have to do a separate thing and pull it over because it just drives me bananas.
So it's like the Yolanda Serna, our viewer, she had, I don't know if she had written a comment or something, but I was like, what is her name? Because the R and the N in her name were so close together, it looked like an M.
On YouTube?
And and on my my phone and everything, I was like trying to like, what
awful.
because I thought, well, that it makes more sense that her name is Serna, but you can't just glance at it and tell what it is. And the same thing with the word Scuppermong, whatever, that it looks like Scuppermong because the R and the N are so close together.
Yeah. And so when I'm doing these, I'm like, I this one I can't live with. It's designed as 3 stitches like this, separated by 1 row and then 1 stitch below that. To me, that's a V.
Yeah. When I was talking about kerning, when I was, it was both when my son was young and also when I was teaching in the self-contained classroom, students with disabilities, they'd be writing, and like the tendency is to write all the letters all spaced evenly. And I would say, this word is a family. And then this word is a family, and they don't live together. So you put these letters together in a family, and then you put a space between their house and the next family's house, and it kind of worked.
Well, the fonts that I was designing, that I've designed for, like the little bookmarks and the other
that hymn.
The hymns, the pillow for my mother and things like that. That that was one thing that I had to think about when I was making a font for those, was that like things like say my rule is 1 space between each letter, within a word, and then 2 spaces, and then the next word or whatever, right? But then like when you get to things like T's and R's that have a little crossbar, I mean not T's, not R's, but T's and F's and things that have the little crossbar on them. And it's like, do you put it right above the letter? Because if it's a space higher, I could put it next to above the letter, so that the end of the letter before and the T, the vertical on the T, are not like this, so they don't look too far apart.
Right.
And so you have to kind of like,
if a T comes next to an E, it should tuck in. But when it
but you have to make sure that the crossbar on the T is high enough.
But when it's next to an H, it can't.
Yeah.
Right.
And proper kerning to me, when you're reading, I have a Bible app that I read, and there are certain letters, it almost looks like 2 separate words, the way it's written, and I'm like...
On the program I use at work, it's called Tessitura. I have so much trouble because I have to read back people's emails to them, and the I's and the L's, if there's 2 L's, and and also my resolution is very small, so I can fit everything on the screen, but I'm like, I-L-L, is that 2 L's? Is that an L and an I?
Eye test every time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you can see. But before we go any further in stories, we should talk about 300 subscribers.
Oh yes.
So we're planning a giveaway. It's going to go over this week and next week because there's
some of it isn't made yet.
Some of it isn't made yet. But one of the things,
or purchased yet.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to give away, if you and I think we're going to have like
three separate giveaways. 300. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So one of the giveaways is going to be this skein of yarn that I made. It's called, I called it Nebula because it's made from I made it from some fiber that was named Deep Space. It's hand dyed blue face Leicester. from a place in Maryland, I think is. Well, I bought it in Maryland, and some time ago, and it's mostly, I would say, like a worsted weight, you could call it. There are some spots that are a little thick and thin, as happens with hand spun yarn, but I spun this. It's very beautiful. You could add it to a weaving or knit maybe a hat or something with it. But we wanted to give that away for anyone who's interested.
And that will include...
And the other thing I'm going to make with it, I'll put a picture here because I need to get some yarn to do it. But a little purse I found. It's really cute. It's by the same designer that designed the 10-stitch blanket. Oops. And it's really cute. So I'm going to knit that up over the next week.
So if you want that in your comment, you need to say
something
yarn.
about yarn.
Yeah.
Comment about yarn. So put the word yarn in a sentence if you would like to be qualified for this, to win this, and the little yarn. It's a little yarn purse. Oh yeah, I'm going to put a picture of it. So comment yarn, something about yarn, and then what you love about yarn.
The second one will be this. It's by Heart and Hand Coffee Bird, and it is the pattern is 42 by 79, so it makes up pretty small, and it will the giveaway will include threads, but not the fabric, so that you can pick what fabric you want to put it on. It's a real cute little tall bird. Yeah. And so if you would like this one in your comment, say bird. Now, so the two separate things, and if you win that one, we'll take your name out of the running for this one if you apply for both. So you can apply for any of them. You can
enter as many as you want, but you can only win one.
Yeah.
And the other thing,
the third thing.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I had shown these. I don't know.
I think you have.
Yeah, but these are by Tim Holt. Tim Jim is what I always call him.
That's another kerning problem.
Yeah, because the way his it looks like a J to me.
The way he writes his teeth.
Yeah, his little signature on the back of this, or on the front. Anyway, but these I had made the.
Start again. In the past, you have made needle minders.
Yes, needle minders and scissor fobs out of these things. So these are butterflies, and these are little discs with sayings on them, like "Blessed are the curious, for they shall have adventures. I want to be improbable and afraid of nothing, as if I had wings."
I like that one.
So I'm gonna choose one of these to make a needle minder out of, and one of these to make a scissor fob out of, and one of these to make a needle minder out of.
So if you want to qualify for that, the word needle,
the word
scissor.
How about butterfly?
Butterfly. Yeah, I was gonna say.
The word butterfly.
Yeah, use the word butterfly in the sentence. So.
And as we said, next week,
and if you can fit yarn, bird, and butterfly all into one sentence, that would be amazing. we will.
And we'll show you the completed little package or set or whatever next week, and you will have that other week also.
Because also 300 came to as us like boom, like
we were talking about it and getting it ready,
and all of a sudden boom.
Yeah,
so thank you. It's
and
exciting.
Another reason why we're going 2 weeks is because next weekend Naomi's going to go to a graduation.
Yeah, I'm going to be gone to graduation. We're going to film before I leave, but I'm going to Hannah's graduation, which is why I have to finish the sweater. But so those will be our 3 giveaways. One of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, and you guys, I find when I drive to work, instead of listening to music, I really enjoy listening to someone talk, so either books or podcasts. And so I had to listen to a couple podcasts, not real super happy, or just not enough of them, because one of them comes out twice a week, but then on the other days, what do I listen to? So I started looking up knitting podcasts, and I found one called, I heard about it from another podcast, but it's called Why I Knit. And it's actually hosted by a clinical psychologist, I think she is. And she has been doing research and on the therapeutic benefits of knitting. Specifically knitting because of, and she's had some guests on talking about how you cross midline, you're using both hands, and it's very rhythmic. And how that can help like ground you or help you cope with even pain or trauma or just, all different kinds of things. And so she's had a lot of guests on there that have had like depression or like different kinds of things, or even through the pandemic, I guess she's had some knitting groups for like medical people. I think it could be true with any craft.
I took a class when I was... I adopted Robert from an agency that gave us supportive classes twice a year up at a retreat. And one of them was on the importance of art therapy. Mm-hmm. And I used that when I was working with CPIS also. Yeah. That to be able, especially traumatized children, to be able to express themselves, whether it be with paint or knitting or... what
some
have
kind
you,
of craft, yeah.
Some kind of craft, drawing, to be able to express themselves. Sometimes there are some children that are so traumatized that the only thing they can do is draw pictures of what's going on. And I think it's a wonderful thing. If you're watching FlossTube, that means that you enjoy doing some kind of physical hand-to-eye craft. Yeah. And so you probably understand how relaxing it is to do that. I mean, I get upset sometimes when I'm sewing if it's not, coming out right, but I still enjoy it.
Well, and it's the whole thing of so she talks to a lot of people, she asks them like how knitting has, and it's focused on knitting, but I think it's true of any craft, like how it's affected your life, how it helps you sort of cope, with things, whether, how, like one guy's like, knitting saved my life. Like he goes, every single stitch was important. And then he made himself his first sweater, he said was horrible and it didn't fit and it was awful. He goes, but I was worth something. I made it for myself. And so because I made this for myself, that means I was worth something. That's how low he was. And so, but it's been fascinating. It's called Why I Knit, if you guys want to look it up. So she's talking to a lot of different people. Some of them, like one researcher, she was researching the benefits of actually knitting, but she couldn't say, like, she couldn't tell her colleagues that she was researching knitting because they would just laugh at her. Mm-hmm. And so she named it a bilateral rhythmic psychosocial intervention. And they were like, oh, really? So how are you doing that? And she's like, through knitting. And then they were like, oh, okay. But and she said they finally stopped laughing at her because she's doing a lot of research in that. But so bilateral rhythmic psychosocial intervention.
Well,
but and I'm thinking about it like through Mom's passing and the past year, or like I was thinking, because she asks every guest, like, what's a significant knitting project for you, and what are your knitting highs and knitting lows, and what has knitting given you that lasts your whole life, that can translate and mm-hmm. it's given you something for the rest of your life. But talking about knitting highs and lows, I've knit 1,000 things, but finishing that sweater for Dad was really significant to me. It's just
when you're doing a craft that you love, whether it be knitting or painting or cross stitch or sewing or what have you, woodworking, you know, when you're doing something like that, like I can remember that there were times when I was painting, that hours would go by and I wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
I don't consider my artwork as being really good. Okay. Because I've never really done it to, I always said, oh, I want to do that as a job, but I never really did. But I find that I need that creative outlet, which is why I worked as a graphic designer, which is why I worked as a, teaching art, those things. And once I start doing that, I don't need it as much at home.
Yeah.
But it is such,
Well,
it is so good for your soul.
yeah. And well, I guess to me, it's the fascination of a lot of why I knit is like, it's a fascination of there was nothing and now there's something. Like I saw that
I
in
guess
one
with
of my,
even spinning yarn.
yes,
that would
well, especially. So I saw a post that I made, my very first project that I spun the yarn, spun it, plied it, knit it, and gave it. And it was a hat for Mark. Like there was literally nothing. There wasn't even yarn. And I made yarn. And then I knit a hat. And now there's a thing that I made from very beginning. That's why like the spinning yarn is like really the creative, like, so turning this into something that my kid can wear that will look nice on her, or all this pile of stuff, you turn it into that bee on a flower that you can hang on the wall. It's like from little bits of thread, you know what I mean? Like it's fascinating to me, and I think that creative process is what I think draws us. And it also talked about how it can, when you have a simple pattern, especially in knitting, because you can knit without pattern, you don't have to look at a pattern. You can just, like knitting in the round, like this stuff, you can do it as you walk down the street, you can do it sitting on a bus, you can do it in a lecture, in a concert, watching TV, listening to something. Your brain is having that rhythmic motion and you don't have to think about it. Kind of like maybe the equivalent for cross stitch is like when you have a whole section that you're just filling in and you don't have to think about it and you don't even have to look. You have all your boundaries and you just go back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do for like for retreats, because you're in the retreat, you're talking to other people and and so you want mindless stitching where you're not having to bury your nose in it.
But then also the flip side of that is like a pattern that's very complicated can keep your brain so engaged that you can let loose of maybe intrusive thought or trauma or something, that you can kind of get your brain completely, because you're having to engage your eyes, your hands,
that's
your
after
tactile,
Mom,
and you can disengage from whatever else is going on and give your brain a rest.
After Mom died, I don't remember, it was in January that Beth and I went to Hobby Lobby. And I went into the fabric section and all of a sudden it was like, oh, I want this fabric. And I can remember even now the joy that I felt choosing and buying fabric. And it was the first time after Mom passed that I felt good, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I think that also one of the things that is kind of fascinating is the way your brain works, because like playing music, you're basically using all of your brain, because you're reading the music, you're physically playing the instrument, the machine, as I always said it. You're having to put your fingers here and there and using the breath in your body for a wind instrument.
Right.
But but you're operating the machine, you're also listening to everybody around you.
Yeah.
So that you blend in with them or whatever, and you're watching the conductor. So your whole brain is engaged in everything that you're doing. And at the same time, you're thinking about
what you're going to have for dinner.
Yeah, you're thinking about, you can think about everything, everything externally, but also you're also thinking about, the emotions of the music and everything else. So you're using your whole brain. And I think in crafting like that, you're also, again, you're using your whole brain, because you may only use part of it, but your part of your brain is thinking about the pattern, part of your brain is thinking about, making sure you're in the right place, the thread you're using, whatever.
Counting, whatever, yeah.
And then also you can be watching television, listening to a podcast, listening to music, doing something like that. Yeah, talking to other people, so that you're using every part of your brain.
I just heard this morning that when you use your hands to do anything, it takes up 60% of your brain power. That's huge. Mm-hmm. So that is part of why they think that doing something tactile with your hands can really help your brain sort of center and, So, I think knitting, even before Mom passed, through the pandemic, I remember because I had always knit, but I think it was really during that lockdown time, I was like, I need something to do. And then now, all these years later, it's like almost a constant. I have to be doing something. Maybe drives my husband a little bit crazy, but because at night I'm like, I need to go knit. More than just even finishing projects.
My son had an accident this week.
Yeah.
And he fractured his heel on his foot, and so he is gotta do nothing for a few weeks. And I told him, he's like, what am I going to? He said, I have all this pent up energy.
Yeah.
And I said, take a class, learn a craft, because I said, play your video game. I said, if you can get your brain engaged in doing something, especially if you're making something, I love learning how to do new things.
Yeah.
When I was teaching art to my class, we started with acrylic paint. That's what they were doing. And they were also melting bottles in a kiln. I'm like, you have a kiln? That's all you're doing is melting bottles in it? Let me get some clay.
Yeah.
So I taught them how to work with clay, and they started making all kinds of stuff. And then I said, let's learn how to make candles. So I had done that when I was a kid. So they were making candles. And then let's learn how to work with wooden pallets. They made some beautiful things with wooden pallets. I had to teach a staff how to use a drill, because he was going to drill a hole into a bottle because they were going to put lights in it, and it had to come out I told him to use a clamp. I swear I told him to use a clamp on the bottle. Yeah, he drilled his hand. But even doing something stupid is learning. You know what? Next time I'll listen to her when she says use a clamp, right? Because you learn also by mistakes.
Yeah.
So when you draw, you learn, okay, I don't like the drawing I did. Let me try it again this way. Because the first time you draw, maybe it's not what you love. But the next time, maybe it's better, And Vanna Pfeiffer just did a floss tube, and she showed some artwork that one of her daughters had on an exhibition. Absolutely stunning. Go watch her. And Twisted Stitcher, if those of you who don't, you probably know who she is. I have painted since I was very, very young. I still constantly watch art videos and have all my Skillshare, all kinds of art videos to learn, and I started trying to learn how to make these flowers and stuff. You know, it's
so good for
it's
you.
not just a creative outlet. It is, your brain needs to learn new things constantly, you know. I think it's very important for you to constantly learn.
One of those ladies that I heard on the podcast was saying how one of the reasons she started, I guess she's the host. She was a physical therapist, I think. And it's based in England. And so finally, I don't know how many episodes I listened to then. I'm not saying finally in a bad way, but I'm like, there was an American being interviewed. I was like, oh, I can finally understand her. A lot of it is very, I mean, there's all different words for everything, but also just like so many accents. I was like, wait, what? Rewind. Because some people from Ireland and Scotland, and it's fascinating. But anyway, she was a physical therapist and was very frustrated because she would go in twice a week to see someone and try to get them engaged, but realized like this one lady, she'd go see an old lady, and the old lady had no reason to get out of her chair, so she wasn't getting out of her chair, and she's like, this isn't right, and then she actually quit and went to do something else, but I think she was editing a health magazine or something, and they had received, it was a knitting magazine, but they had received all these letters about how knitting had helped them through, these people just randomly would say, I love knitting because it helped me when my father died or when this happened, and that was one of her jobs, was to like open the mail. And so she went to her bosses and was like, what is this? She's like, yeah, we have a whole file cabinet of people with stories like that, and we know something should be done with it, like it's significant, but we don't know what to do. And so that's what gave her the idea of actually then pursuing knitting as therapy. So it's all very fascinating, but just, the need to create is one thing also, but how...
Well, it's not too far a stretch to believe that our Creator gave us a desire to create.
Absolutely. And how, but just how much it can help through different, and I completely believe it. That's one reason I'm kind of looking forward to this blanket, is because it will be just, once I learn the recipe, it'll be just knitting, which is exactly what you need when you go camping, to keep your hands occupied and your brain occupied, and
you know what? Kind of thing. I may go pick up a wooden pallet, and Robert can sand it, and he can turn it into something.
Yeah.
We need wooden pallet furniture outside on the porch.
Sure.
A lot of that can be done sitting down. Not all of it, but a lot of it can.
Okay, so let's see, funny stories or interesting stories. Last week I went up to the mountains right after we finished recording, or the day after, and
yeah.
So we have a problem, right? So we're like, if you can be perfectionist about everything, you can also be perfectionistic about where you camp. And so we're so stupid. We years ago we went to a lake in the White Mountains, and it was very nice. It was October, and we froze to death. But so early on, I said, "Hey, honey, why don't we just go back there? Because I want to fish. Okay, I want to go where there's water." And but he was like, I don't know if I want to go so far. Maybe we can find something closer. So we kept looking, but the problem with closer is that it's also more popular, right? So like there's like a couple of rivers that are closer, but they're always stuffed full of people. And we want to camp where there's other people, but we don't want to camp where we could actually see them. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
So like there's some camps where it's just like boom, 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 boom. And you basically move from this city into that city.
Yeah.
and you have to deal with all the people. And we're like, eh. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's look closer. What's closer? And we wound up, I don't know why. We're like, well, we kind of like this campground near Mormon Lake, which is north. It's south of Flagstaff, but anyway, it's north, but it's not northeast, which is where I had wanted to go. So we go up there to this campground, and it's very nice, but there's nothing to do. Like when I first met Mark, he had never really been camping, and he's like, well, what do you do when you go camping? And I'm like, nothing. That's the point. You just go camping. But what do you do while you're there? I'm like, nothing. and then he went camping with us, and he got it, and he liked it, and we fell into it completely. And then but now he's like, well, now we're like, but there's nothing to do here. because I've always been camping where there's water. And I mean, there's been a couple of years where when the kids were little, we went to some places that didn't have a river nearby. And it's fine, but
not what you love.
No fishing, no.
It's not what I love.
Yeah.
No
Walking
water
around the
walking.
water,
Yeah. And it's not what
We used
I
to
love.
walk through the rivers.
Yeah. And
we used to build dams.
yeah. So in this particular campground, which is very pretty, I realized, because there's like at the end of it's very small, first of all, and at the end of the campground it's like, don't go any further, this is private property. So like if you went down that road, there were houses, and then we went to this one loop area, and I could see other buildings up on the hill. And so it's not like you can go hiking, because in that area, I guess there was another camp nearby, like a student camp on one side, and then on the other there was a hiking trail, but it was just very small, very narrow. Like literally all you're going to want to do there is sit in your chair and cook food. You know what I mean? Mm. And to me, I'm like, and I'm not a big hiker. I'm a fisher. That's what I like to do. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just let go of the idea. There's a couple rivers out in the White Mountains that I wanted to go to, and then found out they don't have potable water there. So we're not prepared to go camping with our own water.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. And so I was like, fine. If we can't go back to that lake, I guess I'll just deal with not fishing. But I was unhappy. And then we looked at a few more around the Mormon Lake, Lake Mary area. And all of them we had been to, because we had notes in this notebook of like, this camping spot is okay, this one's okay. And like, we were here when the kids were little. We went on one of these reconnaissance drives. And I'm like, there's a reason we never camped here in all these 20-something, 30 years, right? Like, it's the same thing. So then he had seen something I had never heard of, this lake called White Horse Lake. I had never heard of it, and so because I had never heard of it, I figured nobody else had. And we went driving, which was not true, but it's between Flagstaff and Williams in the north of Arizona, and it's kind of south between them. So you drive on I-40 from Flagstaff, you drive on I-40, and then you take a road. And looking at it, it was only an hour away from where we had been on the other side of Flagstaff. So I was like, okay, it's an hour. So we drove over there. You get off the freeway, and you go south on this road that becomes dirt, and dirt. And you're looking, and it's this vast, flat area of nothing. And I'm like, where's this lake? And then I'm looking at the map, and it tells me to go there and then turn right and travel forever and then go back north. And I'm like, what? So I go far south, and then I turn west, and I drive forever, and suddenly it's paved, and there's some farmhouses. Okay. And then you get to the end of that road, and you have to turn right because the road doesn't continue. You turn right again, and it's dirt again. And then you're going north, back the way. I'm like, backwards to go forwards, and forwards to go back. And I'm going north again, and then it tells me to turn west again. And I'm like, for some reason, these people didn't just build a road across that. Mm-hmm. Like, I just went in this giant U like this. Mm-hmm. So then we turn left again, going west, and I see, as this road goes, then there's a forest line. I'm like, okay. The lake's right over there. And I'm looking at the GPS, I'm like, it's still 20 minutes away. We've been driving forever. So then we're driving west, and then there's a road. We have to turn south again. So we turn south, and then it's... This is the car. Boom, 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 boom. Washboarded road. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we drive down there, and I'm like, this better be worth it. It better be the most perfect, pristine, beautiful camping spots, and Mark better like it, because he's pickier than me. And we get down there, and it opens up, and it's this beautiful lake. It really is beautiful. And it's full of people. And there's some spots that are tent only. Okay, cool. But the Forest Service, being sweet people, made tent spots. But they are made with railroad ties, and they're made in this, I don't even know what is it, trapezoid? It's flat on the bottom, it goes up the sides, and then an angle, and then an angle. What is that? I don't know.
Like a pentagon?
Like half of it. A pentagon, yeah.
5 sides?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, but it's shaped like a house. It's longer on the bottom. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like even. Yeah. So, because it's like 2 railroad ties this way, lengthwise, which I found out is 14 feet and 10 inches. And then a railroad tie like this, and then 2 railroad ties, and then one in the, like that. So shaped like that. Why? I don't know. They think all tents are shaped like that. It was very nice. Thank you for making a nice gravelly area. But some of them, the gravel was sunken down, so the railroad ties stuck up this much, and some of them were all filled in, so it was flat. Well, if you happen to reserve one that's flat, and your tent is bigger than 14, which it is, ours is 15 feet, then you have to go over those railroad ties. And if it's all flat, it won't be that big a deal. But if it's not, then inside your tent is like this. So I'm like, it's not going to work. And there really wasn't area like beyond beside. I mean, there were some spaces that were bigger. But so there was one place where you parked your car here and then took all your stuff down to the tent spots. It wasn't very far. You couldn't put your car right up next to your camping spot, which is okay because you could see your car from there. And there were a few down there. They weren't super close together, but they weren't very far apart either. But just beyond there, you just walk down and there's the lake. It was really beautiful. I would love to reserve a spot like that. Mm-hmm. But nothing was empty because Mark's there getting his spotty reception, and he's like, these aren't available for the time we want to go camping. So then we looked at the ones that were available. He didn't like them, and I didn't. I'm like, there isn't a spot big enough for this ginormous tent we bought, and blah blah blah. So, but when we got out of the car to look around the first time, Eli just is looking at how dirty my car had gotten on this dirt road, and he's like, oh my gosh, look at your car, it's so dirty. And he goes, oh, look at that. And he found a screw in my tire. And I'm like, oh. Like, well, we're already here. Let's go look around. So we drove around the loops to see what we liked, to see what was first come, first served, what was reserved, if there was anything open, blah, 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 blah. And the only spots we liked were those tent spots, but they were taken in the time we wanted to go. And so we were like, this is kind of a bust. Maybe we could make it work. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Disappointing. And
on top of that,
far. And on top of that, I didn't have a flat, but I had a nail in my tire. So we're like, well, let's go. I'm like, I need to get this fixed. So Mark and I are arguing in the car. He's a very smart man. But he says, well, if it's not flat by now, it should be fine till we get home. Because it was like quarter of 5. And the discount tires and flag all closed at 5. And I knew we were very far. We were at least a half hour away. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I said, I can handle it if it blows out here on this dirt road at 35 miles an hour. I cannot handle it at 75 going down the interstate. Mm-hmm. Like, I am not going to drive on a tire with a screw in it. So then we finally drive back up to the interstate between Williams and Flagstaff. And I just put on my hazards and drove in the right lane going like 50, and everyone's going around me because the speed limit is 75. And, but I'm like, I'm not going that fast. because if this thing blows, I want to be able to control the car. So
Does your car have a donut spare kind of thing?
It has a spare tire.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to put it on.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to, because it's. I don't even. I know where it is, but I've never taken it out, and I didn't want to change a tire if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And so, So while I was driving back to Flag, he found a place that was still open that would fix it. So then we went there, and he fixed it, and it was fine. But we wound up. Then we had to. I said I need to eat dinner because I've been driving that whole time. So we ate. We had like a picnic lunch earlier in the day, but we ate at Chick-fil-A and then drove home. And halfway down the mountain in the dark, I was like, Mark, you gotta drive. I'm exhausted. Turned out we walked in the door 12 hours from when we had left, and poor dog. But so after all that driving, we were like, we didn't find anything that we liked. And Mark's like, we should have just gone to the White Mountains. I'm like, I know. So we considered going on Sunday, but I was already so tired, and I'm like, I don't want to go to church, and I don't want to drive more. And the tent was coming from Amazon that day, so we stayed home. We went to Bass Pro in the afternoon, and I got new hiking boots, which are very nice, and we just bought a bunch of junk. And because you go camping, like where you're going camping, primitive camping, but you still need so much stuff. So, and we haven't been camping in years, and a lot of our stuff is old and rotten or whatever. Yeah. So then we got home, and the tent came, and we built it in the house. Here's a picture of the tent in our house. It is giant, but it'll be nice. But then we bought. We were thinking, should we have cots? Because I'm not sleeping on the ground. So we're thinking about cots, and then we found these inflatable twin-size beds there that actually, we didn't realize, plug in and inflate themselves, but you have to plug them in. But we were already planning to take Mark's little Jackery battery with us. So that's okay. But so we only bought one because we thought we'll just buy one of these beds and we'll try it out. It won't be bad to have one at the house, and if we don't like it for camping, we can do something else. But we thought that the inflatable bed, because it comes in its own little tote bag, it folds up. Sorry. We thought that'll be easier to transport than 4 cots. Yeah. Right? So, so we inflated it, and we had the tent all set up. Now, it wasn't staked out, obviously, in our living room. So it would probably be a little roomier than what we felt. But we're like, this tent's too small. Because we're like, we're trying to figure out what we really wanted was to configure how to put 4 beds and still have like some sitting room space. And then, but also be able to close, because it has a built-in wall. So you could have 2 rooms. Because I'm like, I kind of want a guy's room and a girl's room so we can each dress, privately. Yeah. And what's nice is the wall comes down and it divides the rooms, and each room has an outside door, so you don't have to disturb the guys if you need to go to the bathroom, whatever. But because of that, you needed to leave that clear. So then because originally we thought we could just sleep all around the outside like this and only use one door, but that entails putting a bed across where the wall is, and you don't want to move the bed every time you're going to shut the door, But so we figured out, okay, we'll sleep like this, 2 beds, guys and girls, and then we have each access to a door, and we put the wall down. And then Hannah just messaged us just today, like, Jordan wants to come camping. her best friend. They've been talking about it for a long time. Like, I want Jordan to come out and go camping with us. So I guess she finally said, so they were like, yeah, she wants to come. So she's going to talk to her parents, and I guess she's going to fly out. And we'd been talking about, do we even have enough room in my CX-5 for all this crap? And Mark keeps adding crap. And I'm like, well, I could get a tow hitch, which I'm considering, and either buy or rent a small trailer.
Or
rent.
The young people could sleep in a sleeping bag on the floor.
Well, but still, even so, like, now
you need a body length.
Well, now we're transporting 5 people instead of
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
And my CX-5 is nice, but it's not a huge truck. So like, well, I could bring a little trailer for all the stuff, the gear, and then have more room. Because that's one of our friends did that. He bought himself a trailer. He put little wood sides on it, and that was his camping trailer, just a little one. I'm like, I could handle that. And then, and like the alternative is we take Mark's car also, and put the seats down in my car, and it's full of stuff. And then we were even thinking about just the 4 of us taking Mark's car, a kid in there and a kid in mine, and we go. And now if Jordan comes, that's probably, I'm thinking maybe we should just do
It's
2 cars.
It's easier than.
It's easier than, I mean, I don't mind, and I've been thinking about putting a tow hitch on this thing anyway. But even if I did that, seating wise, with 5 people in the car,
And the
be-
dog.
Yeah, you'd be.
Are you taking the dog?
No, she's too old.
So
You can't
You
take
could end up like Uncle Paul did that one time when he was driving along and the trailer
Oh, I know.
unhitched
Don't
itself.
say things like that. Don't say things like that.
You saw
So
the trailer
we
going
have
by
been
and-
jabbering for almost 2 hours. Yeah.
Well, we should go. And we hope that your May is going well. And we will make sure you comment if you would like one of those things. Next week, you'll get to see them in full if you want to wait till then. But thank you so much for our new subscribers. We're so excited.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch those numbers rise. And we're just happy that we're connecting with so many people and sharing our crafts and all our goofy projects and how many times we have to redo things. But we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And thank you for all the comments and engagement. We really enjoy that. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good week.